If you were to open a newspaper and you see all these competing predictions about the future of work, and all those people are really renowned experts with credentials, so it's confusing, like, who is right?
My guest is a renowned professor of organizational behavior.
In the future, there will always have to be activation or inclusion of groups of workers that were previously not active in the labor market.
She's widely recognized for researching the future of work, sparking public debates on how work could look like tomorrow.
The future hasn't happened yet. It's not set in stone. It's whatever we make it together.
My name is Alexander. I'm part of the People and Culture team at Greiner.
Greiner Talks. We talk transformation. Listen in and get inspired.
Welcome, Nicky Dries.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nicky, you are in Belgium. You are teaching at the University of Leuven. And for those who are not familiar with Leuven, I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly. Where is it located and what is it known for?
Leuven is located sort of in the center, a bit towards the east of Belgium. It's known for being a university city. This year, we're celebrating 600 years of KU Leuven, so it's one of the oldest universities in Europe. So it's mostly known for that and for the Stella Artois factory of beer. So beer and studying.
Right now, I can see a bright and nice window in your background. Where are you at the moment? What's the surrounding? If you could explain for our listeners.
I'm at the seaside of Belgium. I'm in Westend, a beautiful place by the beach with my family.
And I know that you just returned from a sabbatical. That's also one of the reasons why you're not in an office at the moment. This sabbatical also brought you to Japan. What did you do? And did you find a lot of inspiration in that time?
It was really inspiring. I went to Australia, Singapore, South Korea, China, and Japan. They have some universal concerns about the future of work and some more unique. And I talked to more than 100 different people, researchers and policymakers from different countries about the future of work and what the debate is basically in their part of the world.
In your job, you are not only researching the future of work, you are also running the so-called Future of Work Lab. I think that sounds really, really cool. Can you briefly explain what is that about? What are you doing in that lab?
We studied the future of work and we decided not to focus on the more classical forecasting or prediction angle, which is talking about what the future will be like, but we're more interested in this question of what the future should be like or could be like or what we want it to be like. So our central concept is imagination, and we're focused on questions around philosophy, ideology, politics, like what would be the perfect future of work.
So in 2024, you released a study called Imagining the Distant Future of Work. And to say the least, you got a lot of attention. How would you describe that study in your own words before diving into results?
Yeah, I mean, the paper is probably like 50 pages long, but after all those years of working on it and talking about it, I can also summarize it in one sentence, sort of. So, and it's kind of a joke, but I say about that study, like, I can't predict the future of work, but I can predict your prediction. So the whole study is about different, almost like tribes in the public debate about the future of work. People like Elon Musk or David Autor or Yuval Noah Harari, one of them is a tech entrepreneur, one of them is an economics professor, one of them is a best-selling author. So there's different groups of people in the public debate. So we did a media analysis of newspaper articles, and they predict a very different future of work. So the study looked at who is speaking about the future of work, who is considered experts in this area by the media, because that is the information that we as citizens receive every day. So who is speaking, what are they saying, and then why?
And there is this really exciting article in Harvard Business Review. That's also what drew my attention to the study in the first place. As we have the privilege of having you with us today, what would you say are the major learnings from this study that you conducted?
I think the major learning is it's confusing to the public, right? Like if you were to open a newspaper and you see all these competing predictions about the future of work, and all those people are really renowned experts with credentials. One of them says, I think a lot of jobs will be lost in the future. AI is really dangerous. And other people are saying like, no, the future is going to be great. There's going to be so much wealth, abundance. There's going to be new industries, new jobs. So it's confusing, like who is right? They can't both be right. So which of these experts are right? And we're sort of in our lab trying to reframe that question. Like no one's right. It hasn't happened yet. But we can take courses of action in the present that move us more towards one scenario versus another. So it's not so much who is right in their prediction, but who is going to end up having the winning story of the future of work, like the story that we end up executing, because it hasn't happened yet. So really, it can go all those different ways.
And in a nutshell, what would you say are 3 major aspects or trends identified by your study?
There's some points of debate. Like one thing all experts agree on is in the future, a lot of processes in society will be more data-driven. Then they differ in opinions on whether this is a good or a bad thing. Like the journalists would say more data in society creates the risk of surveillance capitalism or governments trying to control citizens. And the tech people would say, yes, but if we could have perfect data, we could have a perfect society. Like that's what some people in tech believe. We could weed out human bias and therefore have a less discriminatory society with more objective decisions. So this data aspect was really strong. Then there's a second trend, which is really a discussion about the extent to which automation, large-scale job automation would happen and if that would be a good thing. So economists really don't believe in large-scale automation. They say that innovation will create productivity growth, will create new jobs. The tech people believe in automation, but they think it will be really cool, basically. And the critical people, the journalists and book authors, and then that's sort of the third trend, which is about how much should we be working in the future of work? And there's this really provocative idea by the more critical people in the sample, like the journalists, who are advocating for a post-work or anti-work future where there will be large-scale automation, but people will have more leisure time, and that maybe there will be something like universal basic income to make sure this is financially possible. But it's a very controversial idea.
Perfect data equals a perfect society. That's a very strong statement. Any other big trends that you identified besides tech or data?
Yes, there's some discussion about whether I think all experts believe work will change in the future, the nature of work, the quantity of work, the quality of work, related to skills as well. People will need to do upskilling and reskilling, so changing their skills, learning new skills. But then there's also disagreement about, will we be working less? If we would be working less, would that be a good thing? So this is also a topic of discussion.
So there's 3 major groups identified. That's the optimists, tech, AI executives, and so on. Then there's skeptics. That's quite often economists. And then there's the pessimists, often authors, journalists. How come that they have such different, distinct views on the future?
I'd say there's an answer in 2 parts here. The first is field frame. So people from different fields look at different type of evidence, data, and they use different words to describe the future or to describe similar ideas. And this is a socialization mechanism. So they've been in that field for several years or decades, and that people within fields think one way and between fields a different way. Like if you think of a person who is in computer science versus a person who maybe studied political science, and one of them grows up to be a tech person and the other person grows up to be a journalist, it's basically a lifetime of perceiving the world or learning about the world in a different way. And apparently there's also a personality aspect to this, because we also administered personality tests to some of our sample. And we found, for instance, that people in tech are extremely optimistic. They score very high on optimism. People in journalism, for instance, they can score higher on misanthropy, which is that they think, for instance, that power corrupts people.
And Nicky, how far into the future did you look in your studies? Is it 10 years, 20 years, or even more than that?
Even more than that. So in our lab, we are interested in really far along timelines, even more than 100 years into the future. Also because it really takes you beyond the realm of prediction, because it's just not possible to predict that far into the future. And it takes you into the realm of imagination, which is, wait, we're talking about progress, but where are we going? Like, what's the destination? What would be the perfect society? And sort of work back from there. And some people might think that's naive or not measurable, but I think simultaneously you need to do sort of the forecasting, which other people do, not our lab, like try to predict, which is mostly short timelines, but also what you could call backcasting, like what is the utopia, sort of a word hated by many people, but what are we working towards, sort of? And how do we go work back from there? How do we get there?
So this is not only about how we design organizations, this is about a huge interconnected system that touches on politics, on how we want to design our society, actually.
I noticed this when we started doing this type of research. When you look in the future of work, it's really hard to take work as one variable and really isolate it from anything else that would happen geopolitically. So it's all connected, yes, I would say.
Another highly interesting aspect of your study and your work is the definition of success and what constitutes a successful career. That's clearly changing over time. Any thoughts or findings on this definition of success from your side?
Yes, I actually did my PhD dissertation on this topic, which was around 15 years ago. And back at that time, strongly influenced by the American scientific literature, the definition of career success was salary. American studies would measure your career success through your salary as a variable. And then I started participating with people from 40 different countries. It's called 5C Group. So it's a cross-cultural consortium that studies contemporary careers around the world. And we studied the changing definition of career success in different countries. And I mean, we have a lot of findings, but what we notice is that right now there's a lot of focus on purpose. So meaningful work, people experiencing that the job they're doing has a value to society, that they're doing something that matters to them. They believe they have some type of impact, however small. So this is becoming more important. And also work-life balance is becoming more important than, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago.
And we have touched upon 3 distinct groups that you looked at in your study. Why was it these 3 groups? What about all the other stakeholders in the system?
Yes, that's a great question, because we are definitely not saying that these are the only 3 groups that should speak or are experts about the future of work. Quite to the contrary, we're saying that these are the 3 groups dominantly represented in the media. However, what's almost equally important or more important is what groups are not represented in the public debate on the future of work. Why are they not speaking? Like, are they not expressing their views, or are they not being heard by the media? I'm thinking even of politicians. Like, I thought it was really surprising how underrepresented policymakers and politicians were in this media analysis that we did. But also HR people. Where are HR people? Like, there was much more input from the tech people, the economics experts, which were mostly professors and people leading think tanks or working for banks. Very little articles about expressing views from unions or employee representatives. So really, there is an underrepresentation of a lot of different groups in society in the future of work debate. It's really very focused right now on tech and economics. And a lot of other aspects I feel are missing there.
This gets me thinking, how come that HR leaders, people and culture experts are not actively speaking out their opinion?
Maybe our conclusion should be that the debate is not human-centric enough at present, and that this is really the expertise that HR people could bring in. If I may say this, like, sometimes I feel talking to HR people right now that they're trying to become data experts, because there's a trend in HR now, of course, towards analytics and big data. So I feel a lot of HR people feel they should jump on that train or learn those skills, which is partly true. But there's also a whole other part of this, which is like HR people represent the side of the social, like the relational, the human. So I don't feel they should be retrained as data scientists or HR analytics people, but really this could be sort of where we position ourselves in corporate life and in the public debate, which is like we are the experts on the social science side of things, which those other groups specifically do not have expertise in, I would argue. So I think there's really a gap there for people focused on social science aspect of things to jump in this public debate and offer an additional perspective.
And I really like that take or that approach that you are communicating, is that the future is what you make out of it. But on the other hand, I'd like to raise the question, as individuals or even as organizations, do we really have the power to shape the future of work? It's such a big connected system.
You're totally right. I think this is a matter of collective power, collective action. In our individualistic society, sometimes we forget about the collective, and we can feel powerless when we're thinking about what power do I have? So I think really the answer is in people organizing collectively, whether it be more social movement type, grassroots, bottom-up action, joining the union, but also at the company level could be industry type of lobbying or regulation, different industries trying to weigh on government policy based on the power that they have. So I think we really need to look at it from a collective angle. And also we might find some inspiration in history. In the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, there was also a lot of talk of automation in the factory. And this actually created the unions. So in that historical period, workers started to realize, like, if we don't organize collectively, we will have no rights in this future of work. So this is really what, every action creates, I would say, a collective reaction.
And as your research points far into the future, but we actually have a lot of leaders who need to take decisions for the future today. What can they learn? What can they take away? What can they apply in their work today?
I think it's quite important to work at different timelines at the same time. So of course, there's near future concerns, distant future concerns, but I always recommend to guard the human-centric aspect of things, not to forget that the technology that we implement should serve the people, not the other way around. And I think that constant mindset could already help a lot. But I think what's important is not to accept any, sort of advertising or commercial discourse about especially AI as inevitable or fact. Some people are trying to sell some things to some other people. So I would say critical reflection and constantly thinking about what's the vision. So I always try to reframe those types of things as progress to where? Where are we going? Like, what's the direction? So I would say leaders need to think of the direction in which we're going. We can go fast or slow, but where are we going? And that is really, I would say, vision. That really is what is needed now.
And you already gave us some insights or some hints on what might be your attitude. But I'd like to ask, what makes you positive or what makes you optimistic about the future of work?
I believe in human agency. I believe that people can and will ultimately come together, organize collectively, and safeguard their rights in the future of work. So I believe in people and people's reactions to, if it were to go in a direction that's really not human-centered or undesirable societally, I believe that humans would react to that collectively.
In all these changes going on, how can we design a future of work that's inclusive and socially sustainable?
Yeah, that is the question. I think one aspect of it will be that maybe that's a very hopeful or optimistic belief. I assume inclusion will have to happen in the future of work, because future of work isn't just about technology trends, but also about demographics. So in almost all industrialized countries in the world, there's a low birth rate. There are projections that there will not be enough people that can work in the future of the population within that country. So I think in the future, there will always have to be activation or inclusion of groups of workers that were previously not active in the labor market, be it people from other countries like labor migration, be it people who previously were not able to work or motivated to work. So I think this gap of this purely demographic fact will make inclusion just a pure necessity. That is what I believe, yes.
So if there's one thing that sticks in my mind is there's a lot of work ahead and there's a lot of change ahead.
Yes, I think so. And in what direction that goes, I think it will be in our hands, ultimately.
Nicky, thank you so much for that conversation. There's lots of questions on my mind, but we are slowly coming to an end of this episode.
Yes, thank you so much. It was really, really nice to be here.
Before I let you go, I'd love to wrap it up with you. So I will start a sentence and ask you to complete it in your own words.
Greiner Talks. Let's wrap it up. We need to start
Thinking how to solve problems instead of starting with solutions.
Let's talk about
Worker agency and the future of work.
what I wish for.
Is a future where every decision we make starts from the question, what's best for humans?
Your message to the world.
The future hasn't happened yet. It's not set in stone. It's whatever we make it together.
Thank you for being with us and for this insightful conversation today.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening in. Connect with Nicky on LinkedIn. Check out our show notes where you will find Nicky's article for Harvard Business Review. And have a wonderful day, everyone.
Visit Greiner.com. Share your thoughts and let us know who you think should be our next guest. Greiner Talks. Subscribe now.